I am not dead at all. The sound of a champagne glass falling and shattering echoed through the silent ballroom. My voice was sharp and cold. I was reviewing quarterly reports in my Seattle penthouse when my phone buzzed. It was an email from Adrian Chen, my mid-level manager. He was a capable subordinate who had been with the company for 3 years, always a reliable presence supporting me. Normally his messages were related to business reports, but this time was different. No greeting, just one line. I heard a rumor that your family declared you legally dead after you went missing 5 years ago. The moment I saw the email, my fingertips went cold. Adrian was never one to send irresponsible information. Everything he reported was always thoroughly verified. I was suddenly pulled back to thoughts of my family, whom I had deliberately kept at a distance. With a sensation like something was collapsing inside me, my heart began to race. My stomach knotted painfully. I clicked on the attached link. It directed me to a social media post mentioning my parents. There they were, my father Robert and my mother Catherine Hamilton. My mother, wearing a black designer dress, was wiping her dry eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. My father was rigid in his custom suit, reading a paper with practiced solemnity. Behind them, an enlarged photo of me. My corporate headshot, framed in lilies. I couldn't breathe. Our daughter was a troublesome child. My father's voice rang through my premium speakers. Despite her difficulties, we never stopped loving her. My vision tunneled. He was eulogizing me at my funeral. Though Vanessa left us too soon, we pray her restless spirit finds peace. What? I was alive. Standing in my luxury apartment, breathing, trembling, successful. This couldn't be happening. I replayed the video repeatedly. Their expressions remained unchanged, not grieving, just calculated performance. What the actual hell? I gripped my marble countertop, knuckling white with fury. I hadn't spoken to them in years, not since they branded me a thief. But to fake my death? To erase my existence? The longer I watched, the stronger my rage. My mother was dramatically describing the situation of going missing in Europe and being out of contact for 5 years. My father solemnly mentioned the final years spent in isolation from family. I wasn't isolated at all. They were the ones who had simply cut off contact. I was building a multi-million-dollar tech company. My blood boiled knowing they were fabricating my entire existence. I sank into my leather chair, gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. The video panned across familiar faces: Aunt Diane wiping her eyes, cousins I grew up with, even my childhood coding mentor. All dressed in somber blacks and grays, all mourning someone who was very much alive. Not one had bothered to verify if I was actually dead. I replayed the footage, my chest tight with fury and disbelief. The truth cut deep. They hadn't just disowned me. They had deliberately erased me from existence. In that moment, everything crystallized with painful clarity. This wasn't some misunderstanding or family drama. This was a calculated betrayal. It wasn't always like this. I once believed family meant unwavering loyalty and protection. That illusion shattered 5 years ago when I was systematically erased from my own life, discarded like yesterday's bad investment. The truth? I never stole that money. It was Olivia, my younger sister. The perfect daughter. Daddy's favorite. She embezzled $50,000 from our family's law firm accounts. She was reckless, desperate to maintain her Instagram perfect lifestyle that her event planning career couldn't support. When the accounting irregularities surfaced, my parents needed someone to take the fall. I still feel my mother's manicured nails digging into my arm as she whispered in our marble kitchen, "The Hamilton name can survive one fallen daughter, but not two." My father wouldn't even look at me when he declared, "You've brought shame to this family. Handle this quietly." Within days, I was effectively excommunicated. Not completely cut off, that would raise too many questions in their social circles, but pushed to the margins. My calls went unreturned. My emails filtered to spam. The family attorney informed me my position at the firm was no longer tenable. I became invisible, existing on the periphery of my former life. I threw myself into building my tech company, working 18-hour days, turning pain into productivity. At the time, I didn't take legal action because I was still in a state of shock. And I had no evidence. The family had destroyed all documents that could prove Olivia's embezzlement. Furthermore, considering the Hamilton family reputation and my father's connections as a lawyer, I didn't think I had any chance of winning. Instead, I chose to start over from scratch on my own. And so, I stopped attending family gatherings, stopped hoping for reconciliation. My success became my revenge, but deep down, I always thought someday someone would reach out and admit the truth. That day never came. Instead, something far worse arrived in my inbox. Last summer, I tried accessing my old college email account for some startup code, but kept getting error messages. When I contacted the university IT department, their response froze me. This account was deactivated following a death notification. My name had been marked as deceased in their system, systematically, officially, completely. They hadn't merely disowned me, they had digitally exterminated me. Sleep eluded me that night. My mind replayed their performance on an endless loop: Catherine's designer handkerchief, Robert's practiced solemnity, my corporate headshot surrounded by flowers I hate. My own memorial service without my knowledge. This felt calculated. I needed answers. First, I called Aunt Diane, my father's sister. We hadn't spoken in years, but she always slipped me extra dessert at family gatherings. She answered promptly. "Diane? It's Vanessa." Vanessa Hamilton. Silence stretched between us, then a sharp click. Call ended. I tried again. Blocked. I reached out to several cousins next. One replied with a shocked emoji, then ghosted me. Another wrote back, "This is sick. Whoever you are, stop this now." Nobody believed it was me. Except Justin, my tech-savvy youngest cousin who'd always admired my coding skills. His tentative response came late that night. "Vanessa? Is that really you?" "Yes, I need to know what they told everyone. The truth." The typing indicator pulsed anxiously. "Finally, you went missing in Europe 5 years ago." My chest tightened so painfully it hurt. They had created such an elaborate story. They said you disappeared while traveling along the Italian coast and that no trace of you was ever found. After 5 years, you were legally declared dead, and a private memorial service was held. My phone nearly slipped from my trembling hand. I had never even been to Italy. Something inside me shattered. I gathered every piece of evidence I had: passport stamps, corporate travel records, tax filings. I had never been in an accident. I had never disappeared. I searched the National Death Registry online. The shock hit me like a physical blow. Vanessa Hamilton. Date of death, September 8th. Cause legally declared deceased after 5 years missing. Status, deceased. Certificate ID TRK 74501. They'd falsified official records. They'd made me legally dead. I stared at my laptop, my mind racing with cold fury. This wasn't some family drama. This was a criminal conspiracy. But what were they hiding that justified erasing my entire existence? I should have stopped investigating. But when you discover your own family has buried you while you're still breathing, you need to understand why. My answer appeared where I least expected: Olivia's Instagram, which I hadn't checked in years. There it was, splashed across my screen, a dazzling photo carousel. Champagne towers. Designer flower arrangements. A diamond ring that could buy a small company. Olivia's engagement party to Nathan Parker. Everyone was there. Aunt Diane laughed as if she hadn't hung up on my call. Cousins raising crystal flutes in celebration. Even my reclusive Uncle Edward had flown in from Switzerland. But no mention of me. Not even one acknowledgement. Not even a hollow missing Vanessa caption. I had been completely erased from the family narrative. Until I noticed something in a reception photo: Robert giving a toast, champagne glass raised, standing beside Nathan. The caption read, "To my one daughter who has always been the pride of the Hamilton name." The truth hit me like a physical blow. Not just forgotten. Replaced. I dug deeper into the family trust documents. 3 clicks later, my stomach lurched violently. The innovation fund my grandparents had established for me: seed money, venture capital. Everything that could have launched my company years earlier had been transferred to Olivia exactly 6 months after my death. Legally, cleanly. She hadn't mourned me. She'd capitalized on my absence. I glared at her beaming face, designer gown glittering under professional lighting, and the truth crystallized. My sister hadn't just replaced me. She'd profited from my erasure. Enough. If they wanted me dead, they were about to witness just how spectacularly alive I actually was. The next morning, I strode into Gabriela Morales' law office, clutching a portfolio bursting with evidence and righteous fury burning in my chest. Digital verification receipts, corporate tax filings, property deeds, international travel records, board meeting minutes with my signature. Proof. Undeniable. Damning. The seasoned attorney's eyes widened as she flipped through my documentation. "You're contesting your own death certificate?" I slid the falsified document across her polished mahogany desk. "I'm very much alive, but I'm about to become their worst nightmare." She adjusted her glasses, nodding thoughtfully. "We'll file fraud charges and petition to invalidate the death declaration immediately. The process could take weeks, but legally." "I don't have weeks," I interrupted sharply. "Because apparently my sister is getting married this Saturday." Gabriela's head snapped up. My expression remained stone cold. That morning, Justin had forwarded an email invitation. Just the details: Olivia Hamilton weds Nathan Parker, Saturday at the Four Seasons, Boston. No explanation needed. I recognized the names, the venue, the significance. I stood at my penthouse window that night, watching Seattle's lights sparkle below like diamonds scattered across black velvet. They had erased me with lies, buried my identity in silence, pretended I never existed. But now I had something better than evidence. I had perfect timing. Let them celebrate. Let them toast. Let them perform their perfect family charade. And when they reach that magical moment, I'll give them a wedding they'll never forget. On Friday, I wrapped up work in the morning and flew to Boston. On the day of the wedding, the Four Seasons Hotel in Boston was shining with wealth and celebration. Luxury cars lined the circular drive like a parade of privilege. The grand ballroom doors stood ajar, revealing glimpses of Boston's elite in formal attire, air kissing and champagne toasting as if this union was a victory for them all. I watched from across the marble lobby. Black designer suit, dark sunglasses, still invisible. The surreal sensation washed over me observing what felt like an elaborate play about someone who shared my DNA but was nothing like me. Inside, the spectacle was underway. A string quartet played something elegant and refined. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above my sister in her custom-made Vera Wang gown. She was radiant, every bit the perfect Hamilton daughter. Robert stood confidently at the microphone, his tailored tuxedo impeccable, his practiced voice carrying across the hushed room. Olivia has always been our pride, the daughter who upheld our family's values and traditions. Today marks the joining of two exceptional families. Catherine sat in the front row, wiping non-existent tears with a monogrammed handkerchief she'd clearly reserved for this performance. Her emotional display was restrained, aristocratic. And Olivia? She stood beside Nathan, her diamond necklace clutched as though it anchored her to this perfect moment. I'm so blessed to have such wonderful parents who've always supported me. If only everyone could experience such unconditional love. A calculated performance wrapped in designer silk. I moved closer, positioning myself near the entrance. The officiant raised his hands with practiced elegance. If anyone knows of any reason why this couple should not be joined in matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace. I inhaled deeply. Perfect timing. The show was reaching its climax, but they'd forgotten about the uninvited star. Let us take a moment of silence before proceeding. The officiant's voice resonated through the ballroom like a final warning. The ballroom fell silent, guests standing with champagne flutes raised, eyes closed in respect. In that perfect moment of silence, I pushed through the grand doors. The sound was intentional, dramatic. Two massive crystal inlaid doors swinging wide open, as if announcing royalty. The bright light from the lobby streamed into the dimmed ballroom, creating a pathway of brilliance down the center aisle. I stepped into it, confidently, purposefully. Each step of my Louboutin heels against marble echoed like thunder. Click, click, click. The silence shattered instantly. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Heads turned in waves. Whispers erupted like wildfire. Is that? It can't possibly be. I removed my sunglasses with deliberate slowness. Every pair of eyes locked with mine. Shocked, in disbelief, horrified. Catherine's perfectly composed face was drained of color. Her lips quivered before she collapsed a perfectly timed, theatrical faint. She crumpled into her seat as if she'd practiced the movement. Robert stood frozen, his crystal flute slipping from his grasp. It shattered against the marble floor, champagne splashing across imported tiles. Olivia? She locked eyes with me and turned to stone. Her jaw tightened visibly, diamond necklace clutched in her white-knuckled grip. Her champagne glass tumbled from her hand, spilling across her $15,000 wedding shoes. The room fell into complete chaos. Olivia's lips trembled as she began to say why, but she lost her words. At that moment, the expression of her fiancé Nathan Parker, who had been staring at me for an instant, changed. A light of both fear and recognition flickered in his eyes. He let go of Olivia's hand and took a step back. Vanessa Hamilton, you're the CEO of my company? A wave of shock spread through the venue, and eager whispers suddenly swelled. "That's right, Nathan," I answered calmly. "Chief Executive Officer of Global Investment Partners. I even signed your welcome letter on your first day." "Of course, since you were told I was dead, you wouldn't have known whose signature that was." Nathan turned pale and stared at Olivia. "Your sister was my boss?" "That's right. And I'm also the chairperson of your promotion review committee, scheduled for next month." Nathan loosened his tie and took a labored breath. "Hello, CEO," he managed to say. That one phrase definitively confirmed my identity. I wasn't just the troubled sister, but the company's executive. Olivia's perfect wedding plans crumbled. When I confirmed that Olivia's marriage partner was Nathan, I couldn't believe it, but I decided to use this information a little for the sake of removing my mask. The family hadn't just fabricated a story about a dead daughter, they had tried to erase the existence of an influential executive. I quietly declared, "Your lies will be exposed." I slowly walked toward the altar where the two of them stood. Every guest tracked my movement, as though witnessing either an apparition or judgment personified. My presence alone was the lightning after years of gathering storms, the consequence they never expected to face. By the time I reached the altar, the entire room held its collective breath. I turned slowly to face the stunned crowd, my lips curving into a knowing smile. Now for the truth. I stood beside Olivia, directly under the enormous wedding portrait of the Hamilton family where I should have been. I faced the crowd, hundreds of stunned eyes staring at me like I was a ghost risen from some European grave. Perfect. Let them witness this. I cleared my throat and spoke into the shocked silence. "I heard I went missing in Italy, but I came here to correct that story." A violent shudder swept through the ballroom. The guests froze, holding their breath. Some had their phones in hand, but none had the presence of mind to start recording. There was never any story about disappearing while traveling along the Italian coast. There was no legal declaration of death after 5 years. There was no private memorial service. I pulled a sleek leather portfolio from my designer bag, thick, official, stamped with corporate logos and government seals. "These are my passport records, my corporate filings, my tax returns, my property deeds. I am not dead." I turned toward Robert and Catherine. They declared me dead, falsified government documents, and filed fraudulent certificates. And once I was legally deceased. I shifted my gaze to Olivia, who stood paralyzed, diamonds trembling at her throat. They transferred everything to her. My innovation fund, my inheritance, even my identity. Olivia attempted to speak. I silenced her with a raised hand. "Don't get too comfortable in that Beacon Hill brownstone you purchased with my money." A rumble of whispers swelled behind me like approaching thunder. Then a phone rose above the sea of shocked faces, its recording light blinking accusingly. Perfect. Let Boston's elite witness this so-called wedding for what it truly was. Not a celebration, a criminal conspiracy. "You didn't lose a daughter," I declared, my eyes boring into Robert's ashen face. "You calculated my removal. And now you get to watch me reclaim everything." Their carefully constructed fabrication crumbled to ashes as my truth ignited around them. I turned one final time. My father stood frozen, his face drained of color. My mother trembled pathetically, her designer outfit suddenly looking cheap. Olivia stood hollow-eyed, her diamond necklace now looking like a chain. "You erased me to protect your precious reputations," I stated with ice-cold precision. "But I return to expose your lies to everyone who matters." No dramatic speeches. No emotional breakdowns. Just crushing silence. As I walked out, champagne glasses clinked somewhere in the distance. How appropriate a celebration. But this time, it was mine. After that, I handed my evidence portfolio to Gabriella and signed the final affidavit. A month had passed, and I was in Gabriella's office. She ceremoniously tore the fraudulent death certificate in two. My chest filled with deep satisfaction as I watched the pieces flutter to the desk. "Your legal resurrection is now officially recognized," Gabriella smiled. "The death certificate has been invalidated, and all your civil rights and legal status have been fully restored." I exhaled deeply. "Is this the end?" "It's the beginning." She pulled out a file. "The SEC has already initiated an investigation into securities fraud, falsification of federal documents, and embezzlement. Did you see this morning's news?" I shook my head. "Your family members, Robert, Catherine, and Olivia Hamilton, were arrested this morning," she informed me calmly. "Bail has been set at $1 million each. Quite substantial." Looking out the window, I could see clear skies stretching out before me. Just as expected. "How is the investigation progressing?" "Proceeding well. The Beacon Hill house has already been seized, and your father's law firm partners held an emergency meeting and have expelled him," Gabriella reported. "They've issued a statement saying they cannot risk damage to their reputation." "How ironic," I said. "The very thing they feared most has happened because of their own actions." Feeling refreshed, I left the office and headed to my company. The moment I got in my car, my phone rang. It was from my cousin Justin. "Vanessa? Can you talk?" His voice sounded cheerful. "Of course. What is it?" I switched to hands-free and started driving. "About Olivia's wedding. It's been completely canceled," he said, with a slightly excited voice. "Nathan even demanded the engagement ring back. Rumor has it his family is furious about being embarrassed by this scandal." "Just as I expected," I said. "His family is from Boston's elite society, right? They wouldn't want to be involved in a scandal." "More than that, his father is apparently publicly stating that he doesn't want to be associated with fraudsters. What will happen to Nathan at your company?" "If he's not at fault, I'll treat him fairly," I answered while stopping at a traffic light. "He might have just been deceived by Olivia. Also, there are several relatives who want to meet you directly." Justin's voice was mixed with hope. "Everyone is really shocked. But they're happy to know you're alive. Especially my mom." "Really?" I asked skeptically. When I called her, she hung up immediately. Mom was also deceived. I didn't believe it, though. "Thank you, Justin," I said sincerely. "And there's one more thing I should tell you. I'm looking for a tech job. Come for an interview tomorrow. But don't expect any special treatment. I know that." After hanging up the phone, I was waiting for the traffic light to turn green, briefly thinking about what would happen to my family. That weekend, I was invited to dinner at Justin's house. When I opened the front door, Aunt Diane was waiting. She embraced me without hesitation. "Vanessa, I'm so sorry," her voice trembled. "That phone call, It's all right," I said. During dinner, Aunt Diane told me all about what had happened to the family afterward. She said that my father and mother have not been granted bail and are still under arrest. Their former friends have turned their backs on them, and there was no one willing to lend a hand. Their lives have completely changed. Robert is a completely different person now. My aunt took a sip of wine. Someone who was once so proud is now in prison. Olivia's situation was even more difficult. the broken engagement with Nathan, frozen assets, and banishment from society. She said that Olivia's social media accounts had been shut down and her career as an event planner was over. She started working part-time at a local cafe, Aunt Diane said quietly. Ironically, it's the kind of life you experienced for a while. After dinner, sitting next to Justin on the terrace, I looked up at the starry sky. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Liberated. No longer bound by the past. I've reclaimed my life." On Monday, I gazed at the view from my office window. I placed the fragments of the death certificate in a small transparent case on my desk. It was a symbol of the obstacles I had overcome and proof that I had taken back my life with my own hands. My family tried to bury me, but instead I was reborn. Now my story is entering a new chapter,